Well, the Arab League officially blamed Syria for the alleged chemical attack last week, but declined to support military action against Damascus. Mohammed Jamjoom is monitoring regional reaction from Beirut and joins us now. So, Mohammed, not a lot of support coming from Arab allies for a US-led military strike, at least nothing publicly. Why is that?
Well, Rosemary, there's great concern in this region that what the consequences might be from any military strike. On the other hand, though, you had the Arab League issuing a very strongly worded statement yesterday that was seen as a tacit endorsement of any U.S.-led military strikes that might happen in the coming days. The Arab League has for days now been condemning what happened in Syria. They have called for decisive action. Let's take a listen to more of what the spokesman, Nasif Hati, of the Arab League had to say yesterday on this point.
We place full responsibility on the Syrian regime over this horrid crime, and we call for all perpetrators to be tried in international courts for war crimes.
Now, the Arab League is widely seen as a fairly ineffectual, toothless organization. That's really how it's seen in this region and beyond. But the fact of the matter is, the Arab League is now saying that there needs to be a responsibility being held in Syria for what happened. And really what they're saying here, if you read between the lines, seems to be that they are endorsing a type of military strike, even if they are not involved in any military strike against Syria. Rosemary?
Mohammed, how concerned are countries in the region there that this initial strike could escalate and become a long, drawn-out conflict?
It's a huge concern for this region. One of the concerns that so many countries in this region have is, let's say Bashar al-Assad is deposed, even though so many of the countries in this region don't want him around. Let's say he's ousted. Who is going to fill that power vacuum? The fact of the matter is, many people see the Syrian opposition as not quite ready for prime time, as not ready to lead. They're so fractious, they're so divided, they've not really been able to marshal their forces to rally behind one person who could step in and assume a leadership role. So that's a huge concern. But this conflict is spilling over the borders of Syria into so many neighboring countries, whether it be Turkey, whether it be Iraq, whether it be here in Lebanon. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen 2 huge blasts in different parts of Lebanon, actually 3 huge blasts in different parts of Lebanon in the last 2 weeks. Over 60 people killed. Many people attribute that to the fact that there is a spillover of violence from the Syrian civil war spilling over into Lebanon. So yes, that is a primary concern for Arab leaders as they're deciding what to do now with the possibility of military strikes happening in Syria. Rosemary?
And of course the other big problem, Mohammed, refugees spilling into these neighboring nations because they're having problems coping with the refugees they already have.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, let's talk for a second just about Lebanon, where we are. Now, there's 1 in every 6 people in Lebanon, according to the UN, is a registered refugee. That's just the number of registered refugees here in Lebanon. Last week, we heard that 1 million Syrian children have been registered as refugees. Again, that's just the number of registered child refugees from Syria. It is a dire humanitarian crisis. A country like Lebanon, where politically it is untenable to build refugee camps like you have in Jordan, like you have in Turkey, it is a huge problem for the infrastructure here. It is a huge problem that the population is facing. It is a huge pull on the economy. So just those factors alone cause concern for Arab leaders, for neighboring countries. That's just here in Lebanon. Turkey has its own issues with it. Iraq has its own issues. Jordan has its own issues. It's a huge problem. It's not going to get better anytime soon for the Syrian refugees or for the countries that are housing those refugees. Rosemary?
And just quickly, Mohammed, I want to go back to talking about the Arab League and taking more a political stand than a military stand here. Why is it that the US, France and Britain are more outraged, or appear to be more outraged, about the consequences of those chemical weapons being used?
It's expected by the Arab countries that the Western allies will be taking more of a decisive stance, that they are the ones that have more of the clout and more of the power to be able to carry out some sort of an attack. When it comes to countries like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like the UAE, they want to be involved. They've made no secret of the fact that they want to oust Bashar al-Assad. Saudi Arabia has been pouring tons of money into the Syrian conflict supporting the rebels. So has Qatar. They've been smuggling weapons to Syrian rebels for the last several months. They've been escalating that in the last couple of months as well. But the fact of the matter is, the Saudis, the Qataris, the Emiratis, other countries in this region, they feel that they have a lot to lose politically and a lot to lose when it comes to the perception of them in this part of the world if they are seen as taking a leading role in any military action. One of the reasons for that, sectarian divisions in this part of the world right now are as deep as they've ever been. They've been ratcheting up these tensions in the last couple of months. Because the sectarian lines in Syria have been deepening, they've been deepening in neighboring countries like Lebanon, in other countries as well. That's a real concern, because if Syria continues to implode and if this conflict continues to spill over its borders into neighboring countries, you can see sectarianism taking root in other countries. You're already having problems in Iraq. You're having problems here in Lebanon. It's a real cause for concern in this region that this could boil over and could become a region-wide conflict in the months to come.